Hi, how are you? My name is German Terriquez. I'm the owner of the criminal law firm in Mexico, Justicia Transparente Criminal Attorneys. In this video, we are talking about an important information for the people who live in United States and people who come to Mexico and is accused for a crime. And we're going to talking about the ways to get you released in Mexico if you are into the jail for a crime. We are divide that information into that two ways. First of all, how to get you released before to declare guilty, and how to get your release after to declare guilty. Right? So well, first of all, we are talking about the first topic. Okay, about to get your release before to declare guilty. Maybe if you come to Mexico and you were arrested for a crime, maybe you are thinking how to obtain your release as soon as possible. And it's important that you know that it exists a lot of ways to get you released. Paying an amount of money, maybe for a bail, or maybe a different ways to get you released. But first of all, we need to review and we need to talk about the type of crimes when you can get you released. Why? Because in Mexico, like in the US and in other countries, exist several crimes and non-several crimes. And it's important that you know that just in a certain crimes you can get your release. We are talking about example. If you were arrested or your relative were arrested by a non-serious crime like injuries or like domestic violence, in that kind of crimes you can get your release. How? If you were arrested, first of all, you can stay into the prosecutor offices in the first 48 hours. And then maybe you can go to the judge because the prosecutor is going to accuse you. So in that examples, like a domestic violence, you can make a deal with the prosecutor and the victim to get your release. It's usual that in Mexico, people who live in US like San Diego or like LA has wife or has girlfriend in Mexico, and maybe that person can be accused for domestic violence and the police officers can arrest you in Mexico for that crime, but you need to be represented by a criminal lawyer to get a deal. And in that deal, you can expose in front of the judge that you can pay maybe the doctor or maybe the psychological treatment for the victim, and you can too talk to the judge and compromise in front of the judge to don't punch or don't stay near to the victim, maybe in 1 year or maybe in 6 months. And this could be a way to get you released for domestic violence before to declare guilty. This is a good example for people who doesn't live in Mexico and is arrested in Mexico. Okay? About another crimes like injuries, what you can do to get your release. In the same way, in injuries, the judge and the prosecutor needs that you repair the damage. How? Paying the medical treatments about the injuries for the victim and try to stay away for the victim, because in the Mexican criminal justice, the prosecutor and the judge needs to protect the victim for the person who made the injuries against the victim. So if you compromise in front of the judge to repair the damage and stay away from the victim, you can obtain your release, your freedom in Mexico. So there's another type of crimes like maybe scam or maybe another types of injuries, and well, non-serious crimes in Mexico. It's possible, including drug cases, but possession of drugs. In that type of crimes, you can get your release before declare guilty, right? And then, in this way, or in this topic, we are talking about to get your release after declare guilty. In the criminal process, it's usual that people is declared for the judge guilty. In some of the cases, maybe your relative or you can be sentenced for crimes like possession of weapons, firearms, maybe drug cases, maybe smuggling, sexual crimes, murder, in fears, 2 or tier rate. Maybe you are sentenced in Mexico and you can recover your freedom as soon as possible. So what you can do? Well, in this topic we are trying to divide that information in 2 ways. About the first way, to get you released when you are declared guilty, and the way to get you released is if you are sentenced for a penalty to 4 years or less, maybe 3 years or 2 years, you can access to the benefits of the law. And what is that? It means that you are recovered your freedom, and in that time, in that 4 years or 3 years, maybe you need to send letters to the judge, or maybe you need to make a video conference yearly in front of the judge to see if you live in the same place, if you are working, and things that you need to do, because the judge is going to order that for that time that you get the benefits of the law, you need to do that. So this is the first way that you can access and recover your freedom. What is the most usual crimes when you can access to that benefits of the law? Maybe drugs, possession of drugs, maybe possession of firearms, maybe smuggling, and well, that's the most usual crimes for US people, or for the US people is arrested in Mexico. So, well, remember, that way to recover your freedom is just for the crimes that has penalties to 4 years or less. And what about the other penalties? Penalties for crimes above the 4 years. 5 years, 6 years, 10 years, 20 years. What can we do about that? So, in that cases, we need to do another strategy, another defense strategy. The first strategy, it names conditional penalty. And what is that? The conditional penalty, it's a benefit of the Mexican criminal process when you can access to that benefits and recover your freedom. But in what cases? First of all, you need to stay in the jail the 50% for the total for the penalty. And what is that? For example, if the judge sentenced you for a penalty for 25 years, that means that when you stay in the jail for 12 years and a half, you can try to access for that benefits of the law. Why? Because you have the 50% for the penalty into the jail. And what else do you need to get that benefit? First of all, you need to have a good behavior into the jail. You don't need to have fights into the jail. You need to have a good behavior into the jail. This is the most important information. You don't need another record criminal. If you have a criminal record for another crime, you cannot access for that benefits of the law. That is the most important information that you need to have to get that benefits. And if you are accused or sentenced for crimes like organized crime, kidnapping. In that crimes, you cannot access to that benefit of the law. Why? Because it's a civil crime in Mexico, and for the Mexican law, that person's sentenced for that kind of crimes cannot access for the benefits of the law. Okay? And why is conditional? What is conditional penalty? Because in the another 50% for the penalty, you need to go to sign to the judge monthly or maybe every 2 months, and you need maybe to have a monitor in your feet for the another half for the penalty. Is for that is conditional, because you get your freedom, but your freedom is conditional. Okay? And the another benefit of the law is to get your freedom is anticipate freedom, and that's the same requirements for the conditional penalty, but in that case you need to stay in the jail the 70% for the total for the penalty. For example, if you are sentenced to 10 years, you need to stay in the jail 7 years to access to that benefit of the law. Alright? So that is the ways to get you released quickly in criminal process in Mexico. And the final, I can talk to you about another important information, and it's about the transfer to you to finish your time in jail in your country. Maybe you need to know if maybe you are accused or you are sentenced in Mexico for maybe rape, okay? And you are sentenced to 20 years. Maybe your family, or you need to stay near to your family, maybe in Los Angeles, maybe in Sacramento. That is possible, yes, it's possible. What do you need to do? You need to hire a criminal lawyer in Mexico to try to transfer you. What is the law requirements? First of all, in US, it's important that excise that crime. If you are sentenced in Mexico for rape, in California code, for example, in the penal code for California, needs to excise the same crime. Rape, for example, murder. So, why? Because the international treatments say that needs to excise the same crime in the country when you are transferred. In this case, we are taking the example for US. Okay? And what else do you need? Do you need that the penalty, it doesn't finish in 6 months or less? And what is that? It means that if you are sentenced for 10 years and you are in jail in Mexico for 9 years and a half, you cannot access to the transfer. Why? Maybe because in the Mexican law, your transfer, it lasts more time than 6 months, right? So you need to get, or you can access to that benefit if you need to stay in the jail more than 6 months. 6 months, nor 6 years, 6 months. Okay? And what about lawyer? What can I do? You need to hire a private lawyer to do that. So you can put in contact with our law firm. We can work in all Mexico, in the whole Mexico, to try to get a release for your family, for your relative or your familiar. Okay? You can make a phone call to the number of the law firm, or you can contact us via Gmail or via WhatsApp. So well, remember, my name is German Terriquez, and that is the law firm Justicia Transparente Criminal Lawyer. Thank you for your time, and thank you for your trust.